This is one corner which it's a bit of a ballsy sort of corner. You know what it's like. It's a really long corner with the apex completely outside, right at the top of the hill here. Visually, you don't really see the hill particularly. It's only when you actually walk the circuit that you realise by the time you get to this corner, you get out of breath because it's been a long sort of steady climb. And as you can see from the tip-in point here, or that when the corner starts, the inside curb starts there, you can actually see the track all the way around. So that shows incline effectively.
Edwina's is a completely different story. When we're coming down to Virginia's, this is fairly typical of where you are in the track on the approach to the corner. I'll get my little drawing tool out again. Our effectively line, now the shadow's there, but your line is, you're put kind of more here in the track than where the shadow is. So effectively, you've got all this much track here available to you. Now, you wouldn't approach a left-hander coming down this side of the track, and if the track was only as wide as this, you'd moan about how narrow the track is. So you've got to be out here. The effect of what's happening here is you're driving along down the track, and then at the last minute, you have to do a very pronounced tight turn into the chicane. It would be even tighter if you were coming down that way. Where from this side of the track, you're kind of opening the chicane out much more, so the shape is a much more open curve, and that allows you to carry more speed into the corner.
Going through the chicane, we talked about rapid change of direction. I don't think you do a bad job of it. However, you tended to, when you did that short shift coming out of the last left,
use it as a reference. You don't particularly have to make it. Where we need to be now is right out over here on this left-hand curb, because what you want to do now is open out your exit onto the straight, because your trajectory at this next apex is really important.
White line, should I say? And then there's line 2, and line 3 is just out of sight up here somewhere. You keep it wound on for a good amount of time, but then there doesn't seem to be much maintenance throttle. It's kind of let you get kind of accelerated, then more or less immediately started to roll back, and then a really light brake.
The squiggly drawing. This is roughly where you start your braking. Positionally, you bob on. This is the line that you effectively take, but way before you actually turn into the corner, you've actually finished your braking. So then, because you've broke so effectively so early, you have to then pick up the throttle just to get finished, even get into the corner. Where if you can have the confidence in a corner like this, is to keep the throttle on till probably, I don't know, maybe this much in the track, so it's maybe another 20 to 30 yards. And this then allows you to brake. Remember we talked about the V shape, where you're braking now completely in the middle of the V because the bike's effectively upright.
Towards the apex. If we're braking there, the bike's going to try and sit it up. So there's obviously times when you, even though you want to hang on to the brake, you're better off kind of easing it back and letting the bike kind of take the line it wants to.
And you get to about this point in the track, and you actually open the throttle. Now, the second, when you do open the throttle, unfortunately what tends to happen then is the bike is less reluctant to do that and is more wanting to do that. So you, in this area here, you kind of put on a little dab of throttle, which sends the bike out like that, which means you then have to throttle off here. And if we go up to the corner now, you're kind of rolling up to the corner, and even at the corner entry, which is when we go in here, like this sort of thing, even in this section of the track, you tended to sort of like roll back on the throttle and then a tiny bit of throttle, then off again. Try not to control your entry too much, just on the throttle. You use the brake here, even if it's a long, light dab of trail brake, to control your entry into the corner. But my observation is, after you come over the rise, more of a strong drive and then a strong brake. Get used to sort of driving to a brake as opposed to trying to do it all just on pure throttle control.
You can see, let's run it in slow motion as we get to this point, and boom, there you go. So that's the point now on the track that it's time for tipping. And let me get the little drawing tool out at this point. Chap in front has kind of run on, quite similar to you, and he's going to do a relatively tight turn and then have to kind of come back for what is going to be for him a very late apex. Now, the chap in front is kind of gone for the middle ground, where your line essentially is let me get my pen working. Your line here is very much following the edge of that sort of tyre line, and your apex is around about that point in the track.
Radius. Where if you could come from this side of the track a little bit, it's little bit more. I know the line is a bit exaggerated, but it's a little bit more of a straight line, which would allow you to bring the bike up a few degrees, so you could then do a more confident heavy brake out to that point, and then from where this chap is, do a more committed tip into the corner.
So you'll be able to watch this video and hopefully put some of what we've talked about into action. Good luck, and I'll speak to you tomorrow.
So I hope that little bit of nattering and the little lines and that and drawings helped, the annotation.
Problems. Please get back to me with some feedback and let me know kind of how you've got on.
I hope it's helped. Give us a little bit of feedback on your thoughts on it, and obviously keep in touch, and
give us some feedback and let us know how you get on, and I'll hopefully see you very soon on the rostrum with any luck.